Hey everybody, welcome to Koali Zoo. And this is a Planet Zoo series that I'm doing together with the old Koali Beach team from Planet Coaster. So please give a warm welcome to the DeLadysigner.
Hello.
And Rudi Silv.
Good day, hello together.
And actually this time we have a completely different guest who's never appeared on Koali before, but who we're super excited to work with. It's Mike!
Yay!
It's me again. You can't escape me. I am everywhere.
You basically are, aren't you?
And I might just want to add, he's not even a guest. He's actually part of the team now. To just
Yes.
totally
A
precise about
full-fledged
that one.
member.
Yeah.
We're really happy that you're joining us, Mike.
Yay.
Yeah, personally, I've been a Mike fanboy for many years. Back in the Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 days, although I won't reminisce too much about that, lest we be 10 minutes later in the video and still not haven't talked about anything Planet Zoo related. But yeah, no, it's great to have you on the team.
Yeah, well, we
Are you that old? Roller Coaster Tycoon 3? Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, stuff goes back.
But it's good to mention, though, that for some that haven't seen our mention, Kiralis isn't joining us during this series. He might be joining us for an episode in a podcast or anything like that, but he's just too busy to really commit himself to a new Koali series, so that's why he isn't here, but hopefully he will be able to join us for a podcast, for those who are wondering.
Yes, and if
Cool.
he's listening and watching, he will want to join at some point as a guest or whatever. I'm sure about that. I'll offer him some pina coladas.
Yeah.
already.
Reel it. Good point.
I know there's some really awesome things that we have planned that we've already started kind of dreaming about. It's taken a while to get to this point, but why don't you explain, Silv, how we got to this architectural decision?
Oh yeah. So this is going to be a bit different from Koali Beach, whereas Koali Beach was very generally Polynesian and just lots of woodwork and thatch roofs. The theme for this one is going to be quite radically different, I'd say. We were talking in a chat together for a while, trying to discuss what we could do with the theme of this park, and at some point, I ended up coming across some pictures of Dutch colonial architecture in Indonesia, and we all kind of figured that it was really cool, and we wanted to try something like it. And so Koali Zoo will actually be in Indonesia, which is quite a bit radically different from the theme which it used to have in Koali Beach, which was Polynesian and Hawaiian inspired. But at the same time, I think it remains very tropical. The thatch roofs might be making a comeback as well. But for now, it's going to be rather an eclectic mix of different architectural styles and influences that you can find in Indonesia and the sort of Southeast Asian environment around it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also what I'm starting off with right here. To give a little bit of a contextual explanation to this building, this is the actual entrance gate into the zoo. And this was inspired by what is, pardon my terrible pronunciation, apparently called a Kori Anggung in Balinese temple architecture, which is a large gate used in temple complexes. And yeah, I built this gate inspired by it in a sort of similar style. Although at the same time, I also have to say, a lot of this stuff is inspired by the colonial architecture of Indonesia, and thus I'm also using some different elements and textures than would traditionally be used here. And I think as a Dutch guy pretending to build buildings in Indonesia, there's some very painful political history to at least be aware of. So I just want to say that I'm doing this purely out of a sort of architectural and in-game interest, and sorry about all the things that our people have done in Indonesia, which is undeniably horrible. Mike, don't start laughing at this part.
No, it's a little empty.
Yeah. There's some post-colonial heritage here, but this is a video game, and we are purely doing this out of a sort of aesthetic and architectural sort of appreciation. So as terrible as this whole period might have been, I think there were some cool buildings that were pretty inspirational to do something sort of inspired by in Planet Zoo. So
yeah, the fact is that this particular style is actually called New Indies, right?
yeah. You can find it on Wikipedia also as the sort of New Indie style. And then there are variations of it, of course, because Dutch people ended exporting a lot of, whatever the flavor of the month was to Indonesia. And sort of started mixing these eventually with local influences as well. I think quite infamously, at first, Dutch people really just sort of built in Dutch ways, which ended up creating buildings which don't really work out very well for the climate. So there are definitely some, changes to make these buildings a bit more airy with local materials and textures, etc. And I think in that sense, it could almost be kind of compared to Indo-Saracenic, for instance, which is the British answer to melding Western and British architecture in British India, for instance. It's really that sort of thing. And in that case also, much like Indo-Saracenic architecture, this architecture was very much reserved also for buildings that served a sort of colonial function. So government buildings, palaces, post offices, anything sort of official tended to have these kind of colonial/local sort of blended architectural styles. Yeah, that was my nerdy talk for today, I think.
You guys thought you were getting a Planet Zoo video, but nope, you're getting a history lesson.
This is kind of Koali's school for today. I hope you enjoyed it. And we're going to continue with the next lesson, which will be how the hell did we not fill in the first minutes of talking? We will always do it with Silv. This is so good.
Oh, yeah, we need Silv. Yeah, but I have to say, so obviously I already seen some pictures when it was finished, and it's seriously mind-blowing. And I already want to thank you for giving me such a freaking hard challenge during this whole collab now.
No, seriously, yes,
so
I have
hard.
to thank you too, because that's really, it's really a challenge. I was the most excited about to see how you blended in all the different pieces to create the style you did create, because honestly, we all, in inverted commas, we only saw the picture, but it's always a different story to see which kind of pieces you used. And I was particular very excited to see that, because like from the looks of it, you're like, yep, that makes sense. Yeah, that looks actually good. But when you go in, like, okay, wait a second, we do not have that many pieces yet, being in such an early stage of the game. So how the hell did you do that? And I'm already like, oh my god, there will be a lot of search, trial and error going on there. But I cannot wait to do this. So really, that's super cool.
And
it's
and
honestly
I do
quite
plants.
challenging, yeah. But I'm also afraid now because we also have Mike.
Yeah.
What is that supposed to mean?
No, but seriously, you did something in my zoo, and it really helped me to really get inspired to do similar things and try different things. So I am actually really excited to work with the three of you, because like Rudi is super creative and like the most crazy things. So I'm gonna learn a lot from you three this series. I'm really looking forward to it.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing as well, because I think we all sort of have our own strengths. I absolutely suck at foliage and layouts of parks and things like this, which hopefully N7 will be able to cover for me. And Lady is the only person in here, I think, who's actually really good with animals. And this
I think,
being Planet Zoo, I think it'll be good to have somebody who can actually steer us in the right direction in making the actual zoo and creating the habitats and everything. And
we're playing
Rudi's
in Sandbox, so we're gonna
creativity is
turn off
just-
everything, right?
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, but the animals are still going to need good habitats. We're still going to have to treat them well.
That's
and
true,
get those cute animal pics as well. So
Yeah,
I
true,
think
true.
we're all going to be able to, bring out our strongest sort of skill here. And yeah, I'm glad to at least be sort of first with a sort of architectural kind of episode, because for me as well, to kind of bring it back to the things that you were saying, Rudi and Lady, at the end of the day, you guys can just feel free to rip off whatever you want
you
from
said it.
this build.
Oh,
I think.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because that's kind of the idea as well, the first. But yeah, no, really, the first episode, I really just tried to get a sense of what the style for the rest of the park would be. It's sort of establishes what the park will look like in general and which pieces can be used for the theme, etc. So
that's why we really wanted you to start.
yeah, and I'm happy to do that, honestly. So I think it works out that way.
Yeah, I also think also maybe it's a
Definitely.
good point to talk about the setup for the next episodes. And I feel like we have a very, very good setup now, because next up will be Mike taking over, and I cannot wait to see what you're doing. Well, there's not that much to rip off at this point, so that's at least a good thing. So after Mike will be DeLadysigner. I think maybe with the first animal, who knows? And
Probably, yeah.
And then it will be my turn to kind of go into the next direction, to kind of set sails for the second round, I guess. So I think it's in that kind of sense a very good layout in terms of the personal strengths we have. So I can really not wait to see that. Also, I must add, from what you guys just talked about, learning will be definitely one thing, but one other thing which I recognized is a very important bit in Planet Zoo, which hasn't been a factor in Planet Coaster at all, and that is stuff management. I don't know how often I've freaking moved all my stuff in my sandbox part, because obviously you're building like without this in mind. But the moment you hit the play button again, you're like, oh, well, yeah, no, that doesn't work. So
Don't worry, I will take care of
exactly,
that.
but
then.
it's super exciting to see, like, if you've gone so like for the craziest habitat layout, and then like, well, but there has to be some kind of stuff.
Yeah, they
path
can't
go
actually
through.
get to it.
Yeah, so that's gonna be super
Gonna
fun.
be
yeah.
fine.
Yeah, I hope that we're, somewhere within, I know we're supposed to be in Indonesia, so I'm hoping that we can bring in a little bit of that modern Singapore aspect of it, because I do kind of want to have some modern exhibits too, not all this rustic feel or all this colonial feel.
True, yeah.
Yeah, I think that works out as well. And I mean, historically, it's also, I mean, now they are different countries, but it's very much, even within Indonesia, you have different cultures, and you have this sort of going from different islands with completely different cultures, and, the nation states as an indicator of cultures, and even that's accurate anyway. So I think we can definitely sort of widen out the sort of cultures that we're trying to
And also,
I don't know, depict here.
And I think also story-wise, you quite often do see in these areas like zoos, or in particular parks, they are most likely built off of gardens. So basically you don't start off with having this gate, for example, for a zoo, or basically sometimes it happens, but I think it's more likely to have this kind of gate for either a park or like a garden, or maybe even like as you said, like a colonial main building for kind of some kind of authority or so on. And then over the time, when it's not being used anymore, it's changed and converted into something else, which gives us room, I guess, for all the influences that we want to bring in, and still make it somewhat of a cohesive storyline, I guess. So yeah, I think the modern buildings are well in there.
Yeah, that's very
Excellent.
well said.
So, Mike, are you going to plant some botanic gardens? Did you already look into some interesting garden types for Koali Zoo?
Well, yes. They are, I guess they're technically exhibits because of the way that Planet Zoo actually functions, but definitely what the heck's it called? Cloud Forest. in Gardens by the Bay in Singapore is something that I want to bring in
those.
here.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, I was about this thing. Yeah.
Yo, that's gonna be a challenging one. I'm not gonna start with that one. I'm also gonna need a lot more room to actually make that, because it's a huge structure. But in general, I do have to do a little bit of research on like traditional gardens in Indonesia and see if I can find like a pattern that we can do for a big central garden or something like that.
Oh, that would be so awesome.
Like a cloud garden, for those of you, I think maybe potentially people don't really know about that one. Like I am a big fan of this cloud garden build. You guys have to look it up, because it's super impressive. And this is also why you said kind of exhibit style, which building off of what you did in your first Planet Botanic episode. Oh my God, I cannot wait to see what you're pulling off there.
Just imagine that, but much, much bigger.
Oh yeah.
Well, much bigger.
I'm really excited to see that.
These buildings are actually rotated. Damn it! On the screens,
yeah.
I always thought they were like straight, and you just used a very wide-angle Ansel shot. You just fooled me there, man.
Oh, really? You didn't see that?
I wasn't sure because I didn't know that Silv went that path to be even more complicated with the ground texture. But well, he did then eventually. Oh god, what a pain.
Yeah, you're right.
It's kind of funny. It does actually look like a wide-angle lens right there.
Yeah. So
Yeah, true. I just wanted to say it's okay. I'm gonna say it. It's forced perspective in a sense, because the way that they fan out, if you stand in front of it, it does give you that idea of like a wide sort of perspective look. So it looks like everything's a bit further away, and the tower in the distance is a bit bigger. So having these kind of tilted to the side, I think helps make the entrance feel a bit more grand as you're walking toward it.
So it's forced perspective, but is it a weenie?
oh yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, it's. I would say that the gate is definitely a weenie.
Yeah, I would
it's
agree.
definitely attention drawing and hopefully iconic enough.
It's so beautiful. I still can't help it. I still can't believe that this is in Planet Zoo. It's really beautiful.
And this is the starting point. Like, really, that is the starting point of Koali Zoo. I'm super excited because I remember on Koali Beach, I haven't been part of the first few episodes, and I remember watching the first episode, like, as a viewer, and I was, like, super excited about that entrance you made back then. And it was really, like, the starting point. And whenever I watch this episode back, it's like, well, that's where everything started. And then, 1.5 years later, or a year later, you see what happened there. It's crazy, actually. So,
but it was also like really the iconic thing of the zoo, and of
the park.
The park.
Yeah.
And this is going to be exactly the same. Like this is like the Koali Zoo entrance, and I don't know, it has something special, and I think it's gonna be really promising for the rest of the zoo.
yeah, it will.
I remember
Yeah.
seeing the pictures of this. The freaking custom path there is amazing. That you end up.
Yeah,
Oh my God, now I
ended
see.
up not actually going with this one because I
I
didn't
was about
quite
to
like the
say
textures
these are
as
not
much.
the right one.
No, I actually intended to cut this footage out, but might as well keep it in now. Well, actually, it's just really short. It was me messing about with different stone textures, trying to figure out if you want to make a custom stone pavement, which would be the best textures to go with. But a lot of the stone pieces in the game end up having very rough, sort of bumpy textures that don't really work well for the more modern look that I was going with. So I didn't actually end up picking any of that, unfortunately. But we'll come back to that in a minute, as I think I'll be building the actual texture at that point.
Yeah, I think what you ended up sitting on is actually pretty darn good.
Oh yes,
Because it does give you the variation, but it doesn't look nearly as tiled.
but what you're saying is you didn't do that in one go, Silv. Seriously?
What? Yeah, no. I actually didn't do a lot in one go. I ended up... you guys can see here that there are a lot of cuts in these time lapses. I ended up spending a lot of time trying to figure stuff out and seeing how I wanted to do things. I think just as many unrecorded hours as recorded hours of just trying to build stuff went into this.
So people
Is it your goal to break this game? Because I'm just looking at all the pieces here.
Oh god.
Oh my God, I'm looking at with my mouth open like, oh my goodness.
My
so
brain is
many
just like, wait a second, that was
pieces.
like one tile. It's like I was okay. Stop just counting.
Oh, but it looks so good. Look
It
at that.
does.
So that's-
Oh, man.
That is what I wanted to say. Like, okay, so with so many pieces in, did you already break the sandbox mode park?
I hope
Like,
not.
can we even play in it? Can we even do anything else now? Or is it like...
Well, for one,
oh my
I
goodness.
tried not to make the roofs too custom. So you can see a bunch of planks on some of the roofs there, but most of the roofs will actually just be in-game roofs. I'm not doing that thing where you put a few thousand shingles together to make a custom roof, because that's going a bit too far.
But what I
perhaps.
noticed, I do have to praise the game in that kind of sense, definitely this time, because I was super excited to see that they seem to have changed at least one big thing about the performance from Planet Coaster. Yes, the game does lag a bit if you're very close to the object that has a lot of pieces intersecting, but the moment you zoom away and you go into another area, it's completely gone. You have the old performance back. So it's actually only really located in that area, whilst in Planet Coaster, it kind of affected the whole park. So as soon as you hit that
Yeah.
magic number of pieces, it was like Yeah, well, have fun now, I guess. But with this game, that's a lot better. I mean, I experienced that, I don't know, with a few things where I got a custom roof done, and at the end, it was really still a very good performance. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's I have a pretty big park right now, and it still runs mostly the same as when it started. Like, there were some performance issues during the way, but with updates and stuff, it has been fixed a lot of times. So I think performance-wise, like FPS-wise, it's really running still perfectly fine.
Yeah, and it has, for me at least, it has way less lags and kind of frame drops. Whilst I had so many frame drops in larger parks in Planet Zoo, I don't really have them at all. And I basically still run my Yosemite Zoo over 100 FPS, which is,
Nice.
I mean, still crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah,
Wow.
definitely.
But then again, you have a beast of a PC. Kind of jealous of that.
Well, only the graphics, to be honest. Like, I still run 16 gigabytes of RAM only, so...
Oh, wow.
And I got a good i7, but I'm by far not the best one. I think it dropped down in the ratings to below 20 or whatever. So, I don't mind. It's good enough, but I think it's not as beasty as it could be. So,
May I just say about this logo?
Oh, God.
It really looks like you're such a pro with making a logo just out of nothing.
can you please, please explain?
Please tell the people how you did this, because it's so funny.
Yeah, right. This is maybe not entirely what it looks like. So, I'm not an architect, as some people like to think, but I do a master in urban studies, so I go to school with a lot of architects. So I had architect paper on hand, and we had a logo for Koali Zoo, which was remade from the Koali Beach logo by Rudi. Thank you very much. Very nice. And yeah, basically what I ended up doing is copying it over to a sheet of architecture paper and clipping that to my computer screen, and you could actually it's super translucent. You can just see through it, but at the same time see the Koali Beach logo, Koali Zoo logo that I drew on top of it. So I'm just copying that over through the paper over here. So while it looks
it's
super
really
impressive,
funny to look at.
It's
Yeah,
insane.
exactly.
it's
It
not
looks super
nearly as
impressive.
impressive as it looks.
I mean, it's still pretty impressive. I mean, doing any sort of art-shaped logo is always fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
definitely.
yeah.
And I mean, it's...
But this is the L, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, this is the
It's
L
the L,
logo.
right?
This is the L in Planet Louis.
You guys couldn't have chosen a more difficult font to work with.
Well,
Yeah,
obviously, it's
uh,
actually we didn't choose the font.
Oh, that's right. You guys
Yeah.
you left it to the
Yeah.
people. That's a mistake.
And actually, I was searching for a lot of different styles of the Z, and anything else I tried was even worse. Like, honestly, everything else I tried was really going to be the restroom logo for our park.
So yeah, but from now on, it's still a Z, guys. It's not an L. For anyone watching, if you dare to comment, it's an L.
Now you
You just dare
there
the
we go.
comments.
I mean,
You don't dare the
L or a
YouTube
pound
comments.
sign. Quality money.
Yeah, we're gonna get
It's
dunked
just
on.
funny. We know.
so
It
Silv,
looks
please
like
now, if you need to tag the video, tag it Koali Zoo, because that's what most of the people will put in the
people
comments.
say.
You know, Mike, how many comments I still get about the Ma'alen. Yeah.
Ma'alen.
Like, so many people keep commenting about it. I love your Ma'alen Zoo.
But that's
Yeah,
what's
you make one
happening.
Oh,
mistake.
yeah, thanks, Mike.
Whoopsie.
I mean, but people don't forget. I mean, this is also why we're building in a Mexican theme, right? Aren't we? Right?
Yeah.
God.
Goodness, Mexican theme. What is the new theme, Rudi? Do you remember? Yeah, Mexican.
It's definitely Mexican.
Oh my God, it's a new Indian type.
So we're doing the new Mexican style.
Oh wow. Why isn't Koali Zoo Mexican themed?
It kind of is. I ended up using a lot of Mexican scenery pieces in this
I
build.
hate you
So
guys.
Do we have
it's a
Mexican
little bit
scenery?
Mexican.
Don't.
Yeah, it's the Indian one.
Oh, gotcha.
No, I think Mike totally missed out on the Mexican
At least
part.
one person in the
maybe
whole
half the
world
audience
does
did
not
too.
know about that. I'm so happy. because he was busy doing gardens. I'm happy about that.
Yes, I was busy working on everybody else's projects.
Well, Rudi, I don't get mad, but I'm still gonna fill Mike in. So yeah, during Gamescom when we were getting early access to the game, basically, and
Behind
saw the
closed doors.
scenery that was not yet revealed, which is the Indian scenery. Rudi asked if it was the Mexican scenery. Based on
No. He didn't ask
what he
that.
saw.
Later on, we were watching the footage and we were creating our videos because the embargo was like a week later. And I was texting Rudi, like, Rudi, do you remember what kind of theme it was? What was it called? Yeah, it was Mexican. So we both made a video, but I only mentioned it in the video, but I didn't make a video about the theme. But Rudi made a video about the Mexican theme.
Wait, I never even got this. Oh my god.
And Sean was like, I'm pretty sure this is the Indian theme, guys. And then our videos just went live, and we were like, no. Thanks, Rudi. Thank you for saying Mexican.
I mean, I got a new emote. I got like 20 people subbing with the hint I'm Mexican. I cannot complain. But oh god, no. I just still want to say that it just was down to all the hype, and I was like, still when Lady asked, I was like looking at the footage and cutting several things. I made like 20 videos, whatever, and I was looking at the colorful buildings, and I was like, yeah, clearly Mexican, right? I was like, okay. I did not even think a second about the fact that all the animals in there were clearly Indian related animals.
Oh my god, you're so right. This is the first time I realized
that. It's like
that
the Indian rhino, for example, or the Indian elephant in Mexico.
But we didn't see the elephants.
No, but we
did not
we heard them.
We heard
them.
them.
I still hate me.
Welcome back to 3 Europeans and an American talk about other cultures.
So sorry.
I was just about to say, now I understand why you guys were so eager to let me tackle the architecture here.
Yeah, it's not really...
I mean, we can ask the viewers. Maybe they would have liked to have a Mexican Koali Zoo. I don't know.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Well, at least I personally do have the theme and game. You don't, so I should have... just saying.
I feel like the climate's actually pretty similar, honestly.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Probably, yeah.
You just drink tequila and...
Yes, what is the national drink of Indonesia? Do they have a national drink?
Tea?
I have no idea.
Colonial crossover.
I'm gonna look that up in the meantime.
Well, I was actually thinking, we have complete freedom what animals we will add, right? It's not like we're building an Asian theme, so we're mostly gonna get the Asian animals. Like, we don't have Indonesian animals.
Right.
Do we?
What
exactly? Gharial? Is it Gharial from that area? No, it's not. Is it?
No, a zoo generally is not really about the native animals anyway. Usually a rescue is.
No,
but...
that's true. But a lot of people are like, okay, I'm going to build a North American theme, so I'm going to use those animals mostly. I did an Asian themed one, so I decided to get mostly Asian themed and then African part. But we just have complete freedom. I like that. Because, I will be probably the one mostly adding animals here. Including Rudi.
Hey, animals are easier than rides, right? Kind of.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's so different playing in Planet Zoo compared to Planet Coaster. Although I do have to say, I sometimes really miss the fantasy stuff. The more I play Planet Zoo, the more I think, I would love to build a castle here. Like, no, I'm not going to build a castle in Planet Zoo. So yeah, that's the only thing I'm like, maybe I will get back to Planet Coaster one day again.
I mean, I feel like you can still do that. I was watching Yurei. I don't know how you say it exactly, but his palace was pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. And that's also really cool. Because it's a recreation of Schönbrunn in Vienna, which is a really cool zoo because it's located in an old palace, like an old palace gardens.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's also really why he's making the palace right now, and he's gonna add a zoo to it later. Shout out to Jure, by the way. I'll link his YouTube channel in the description because he
definitely
just now came out with a video on the palace, and it's super cool. But yeah, it's kind of It's a really cool concept for a zoo. I've always thought, just taking these old palace gardens which aren't used anymore and converting them into a zoo, including all of this really cool classical architecture.
I think it's really smart.
That's really cool.
I think it's just really smart from having the land and trying to make use of it and to do something with it, because those gardens can be huge.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Oh, I'm really going to check his video out once we're done with recording, because I'm really excited to see what he's made.
I love this building. I think I love it even more than the big gate, just because I like this kind of colonial architecture.
I can so relate to this with the orange brick. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so at home now.
Yeah, it's a little bit Dutch. I'll give it some explanation. So basically, this was mostly inspired by the buildings that you can find in the old city center of Jakarta or in Bandung, which feature very Dutch-like buildings with the typical orange, red-ish Dutch tile roofs.
Mm-hmm.
But then they have white plaster walls and other, detailing and use of materials than Dutch buildings, of course. So I think that's a really interesting contrast. So for this building, I was generally inspired by that, but also the Dutch Swiss-chalet style architecture, which features a lot of woodwork and decorations around the roofs. So hence why I'm putting all of this wood around the roof and creating
Really
these custom gables and stuff.
What was really cool, too, is that in some of the resource materials you were showing is that some of these Dutch buildings were painted really like tropical colors and kind of intense. So it gave you this feeling like, oh, yeah, no, I think I know that from somewhere.
Yeah, right. It's interesting how some of this colonial architecture just kind of ends up being pretty much just Dutch architecture, but with a different color scheme.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what this kind of is as well. It reminds me a tiny bit of the Efteling as well, because I know the Efteling likes their chalet-style touches as well. You see a lot of these kinds of decorated wooden gables and little spires everywhere.
So what was this building again for? What did you add in this building?
So I'm actually not really fleshing out much of these buildings. I think Mike is going to have to start working on that a little bit.
I thought that you already added some facility buildings or guest buildings.
I added some stuff. Yeah, this is going to be the sort of like information guest services building. So this is where you could buy tickets or also just get maps or extra information or...
Can people get a refund?
No.
No. Sorry. I just had to say.
Peggy 18.
Nothing
Not
to see here,
yet.
people.
No, they can't. Okay, good. Okay.
Or I don't know. Maybe if you're a group of people who are allowed to have a backstage tour, then this is the kind of building that you show up. I don't know, at a theme park. That is what I am, the kind of person who shows up to these buildings for.
I really love that
Sorry,
building.
I just needed to flex.
Yeah, but this is honestly super amazing, this building. What
so
I found
charming.
interesting is when you were actually talking about this color scheme and stuff, I did a lot of research when I was doing Isla Napali, and I found this super interesting, like what kind of color schemes do work with the sun best and why they keep it cool or whatever. So this is pretty interesting to take into account, because you just said, okay, it's like, architecture wise, it is like Dutch architecture, and then mixed up with different colors. However, there's also a slight change about the roofs. The roofs have to be at a slightly different angle to just work a bit better with more heavy rain. So this is also kind of something they used to do a bit, so that the angles make it easier, obviously, for the water to go down, and they stand out a little bit further, so the water doesn't go down the wall, to make sure that the wall is not always so wet that it will
and the woodwork doesn't get covered in
exactly
water too.
So this is why. So they're just only going a further little bit outwards than they usually do. So I found this interesting, because you did this actually on this build here, so it's pretty cool to see that. And I'm really a huge fan of these little bits and things you just look at and you see it feels right, but when you think about it, it actually has a reason. So it's actually cool to
that is
interesting.
Cool. That helps a lot, actually.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the rain sort of argument there, but now in hindsight that you said it,
rain now too.
Works out.
Oh my goodness,
Oh.
yes.
Yes,
Well put.
I'm gonna
God,
have
love
to
the
feature
rain.
that in some cinematic footage.
Obligatory rain shot.
Definitely do.
Yeah.
This is
but
called
that's a good point.
Dutch Chalet. Is that what this architecture is called?
So technically, it's called the chalet style in Dutch, but it's
Okay.
based on Swiss chalet style architecture.
Oh.
So, and it's interesting because Swiss chalet style architecture, in turn, at least I've read in some random PDF that I went through a few days ago, that it's similar to Nepalese architecture of all things.
Okay.
Which you could see has very similar overhanging roofs and wooden beams upholding them, etc., which just sort of comes from this kind of mountain-like architecture. So it's like you've got the Nepalese influence to Switzerland to the Netherlands, and finally exporting it all the way back to Indonesia. So yeah, it's an interesting blend here.
Mm-hmm. God, it's like really a box of possibilities and ideas and stuff that comes to my mind. God, it will be so hard to hold back until 4th episode. I really have to contain myself then. God, I think I'm gonna be playing around with some stuff.
It's gonna
in
be
between.
awesome.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
I'm really excited. Really excited for just this whole collab in general. We have been talking about this for months already. As soon as we knew that Planet Zoo would come out, we were like, Koali Zoo, Koali Zoo. And like everyone was asking, are you guys doing Koali Zoo? And we maybe. Well, we already spoke about that like the first day.
True. I have to say I'm pretty proud of us. Like none of us was actually even hinting at it. We were like, well, I don't know. So maybe. But we didn't even tag someone or just do little hints or whatever until that day where we posted the video. Well, actually Lady and I did, but
yeah, but it's good because now we have Mike, and Mike is like the best addition for the for our series. Like I'm really as I said, I'm super excited that you're joining.
I am too.
And everyone definitely go and follow Mike because he's the one that is going to blow you away in the 2nd episode. And of course, follow Rudi.
I'm sorry.
Don't most definitely.
I just really
I don't know what I'm doing yet.
You're going to blow us away.
All right,
I feel
the
it.
thing is, it's a win-win.
Whatever it is you're doing.
It's a win-win situation for us. If you don't blow us away, well, it's your fault. And if you do, we can just claim we said it.
Wow.
So now, no pressure, Mike. Have fun.
Yeah, thanks. It will be fun.
I think it's gonna take 4 weeks before Mike's episode will be online now.
Gonna make sure it's perfect.
I'm just gonna get wrong feedback then. No, I'm not.
So anyway, I'm gonna leave you guys with some cinematic shots now, and I'd like to thank everybody here for watching, and of course the whole Koali team for being here with me for this amazing commentary today.
Pleasure. It was definitely a pleasure.
It was awesome.
Sensed a little bit of sarcasm there, but all right.
I was a perfect one-taker, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, that's all we do. We do one take here, and we just pray that no awkward moments end up happening, which we do anyway. But that's life, You gotta take it. You gotta take everything, including the awkward moments.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm stalling on these people are watching this like, just get it over with.
But it's beautiful. I don't think people are going to be like, I don't want to see more of this.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, thanks again for watching, everybody. And I hope to see you all in the next episode of Koali Zoo on Mike's channel.
That's right.
Bye, guys.
Yay.
Stay tuned.
Bye.
Bye.